The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of the ANA or its members. On today's episode of On Scope, ANA CEO Bob Liodice returns to ANA Studios to set the agenda for Season 2 and introduce the world to the future marketer. And on marketing news you might have missed, maximiniflation. We'll get into it. All that next on Scope. Back like we never left. This is On Scope, the marketing podcast brought to you by the ANA. I am your host, Mike Berberich, and with me, as always, the creator and producer of On Scope, Ryan Dinger. Happy New Year, my friend.
Are we still in the Happy New Year window, you think? I mean, I guess we haven't been with our listeners since the New Year turned over, so...
Yeah, I feel like if I see you inside of the month of January for the very first time in the new year, I personally am giving that Happy New Year.
I think it depends on how I feel about you as a person. So let me, Mike, extend a Happy New Year to you as well.
Oh, and a Happy New Year right back at you to double it up, buddy.
We are back like we never left.
100%. I am raring to go. Do you want to just jump into this? Because, I mean, talk about picking up where season 1 left off.
Yeah.
Hit them with some marketing news they might have missed, Ryan.
That's right, Mike. This is marketing news you might have missed. We've got a doozy to kick off season 2 of On Scope, the marketing podcast. Here's the headline from you, from the drum. Mark Ritson, why maximiniflation is about to blow up in brands' faces. And here's the subhead for you in case that wasn't enough expletive. As brands quietly shrink packs and raise prices simultaneously, consumers are spotting the trick and reacting with fury. And the article begins, quote, "Why aren't people angrier?" asked a woman on X last week. Quote, "Fuck this fucking country. I hate the UK."
Oh my.
The source of her fury? Not immigration, not the government, not even the weather. This was about Cadbury cream eggs. Quote, "What do you mean a family bag of mini eggs costs over £6, she raved. A person on minimum wage has to work an hour to buy 2 bags of mini eggs? And this ex-user wasn't alone. People have a point, sort of. The vagaries of UK discounting make price comparisons deliberately difficult. But based on RRP and sizing, some value fuckery is clearly underway. I love the language of this.
Oh, yeah. Some UK writing is just, let it rip, baby.
Anyway, Ritson goes on to say, Cadbury's website shows a standard bag of mini eggs at 74 grams with an RRP of £2.36. A year ago, that bag was 80 grams and priced at £2. That's an 18% higher price for 8% less product. A quarter of the value gone in 12 months. The anger consumers feel about these types of brand actions is driven by 3 factors. First, this change runs 20 points higher than current food inflation. Second, it isn't communicated. If you're not paying attention, you think you're buying the same thing while actually paying more for less. And third, crucially, this isn't just shrinkflation. That term, coined by economist Pippa Malmgren, excuse me if I butchered your name, Pippa, describes a hidden form of inflation where shrinking packs replace obvious price rises. It let manufacturers manage costs without triggering backlash. But what's happening with mini eggs and other products is different. Companies are quietly reducing pack sizes and sliding in simultaneous price rises. It's a kick in the balls, followed by a kick in the face. That double indignity, executed without declaration, is why it's causing significantly more noise than standard shrinkflation. I call this maximiniflation. It's a clumsy name for a clumsy marketing tactic. Companies maximizing prices while minimizing size. I expect it to combust in waves of consumer anger this year.
My goodness.
Yes. One last detail,
Please.
and then we'll get into it.
Yeah.
At this very moment, big food companies are embarking on maximiniflation. Consumers have become hyper-vigilant. McKinsey's consumer-wise survey shows 43% of American consumers rank rising prices as their number one concern, ahead of tariffs, healthcare, and job security. Across all 18 globe markets surveyed, rising prices remain the dominant worry. Maximiniflation, Mike.
So 5 minutes into season 2, and it's clear we're going to have a spicy on-scope journey ahead of us, and we have a brand new word. Guys, a couple of things just spring to the fore for me. You know, let me start with, like, something that's potentially positive, something that maybe we can rally our marketers around. Is 2026 the year that marketers demand back control of the 4Ps? You know, like once upon a time and today, in the most successful brand cases, you see marketers are all over product. Marketers are all over positioning. And really, in the brands who are really trying to drive growth and really trying to establish themselves as an entity that consumers love, they have a say in the pricing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we talked about this in season 1. Marketers can't just be spin for all of the bull crap the rest of the company is trying to slide through. I don't know why I said bull crap. We've already used the F word like 7 times today. But I just think like, I think this running amok, short-termism hurts.
Yeah, we learned that last year. I mean, that was an ongoing theme in season 1. I'll tell you, Mike, I'm reminded of a term that used to be sort of niche, but I think a lot of people know it now.
Oh, hit me.
And shitification.
Yes.
You know, and
yes.
This talks about how everything quality-wise is declining as these prices go up. And maximiniflation feels like an offshoot of shitification. And, you know, there was a time when you and I were earlier on in our careers here at the ANA. I remember a lot of our thought leaders, experts talking about marketing's role as being the advocate for the consumer within the organization, right? Like as a marketer, you're sort of like the HR department for your consumers and your customers. You're meant to protect them from bad business decisions and advocate for having a good experience, because guess what? Good experiences lead to long-term relationships, which help drive up your brand's value and performance over time. And it seems like we don't hear people talking about that anymore to me. No. I haven't heard that said in a long time, probably pre-pandemic. Like it's become very much a focus on we need to drive value. We need to claw percentage point quarter over quarter, make sure we're getting every last drop out of everything that we can so that the shareholders are happy. And I'm not trying to downplay the importance of driving value. I think that that obviously has to be a key part of your job. But the fact is like a lot of what these companies are doing are going to hurt their long-term profits either. And there's nobody in the room seemingly telling them that these are bad ideas.
Yeah. And Ryan, not only was this the marketer's responsibility, it was their source of power. They come to you and be like, the people who spend money, the money that you're trying to balance on the sheets, think this way. They engage with this. They feel strongly about this. That's where marketers could step into the room and say, well, actually, no. And by abdicating that, what are you but the PR firm for what the rest of the company decides to do without the consumer in mind?
Yeah, 100%. And so when we talked about this story initially, when we were going through pitches this morning, you know, we came across like, okay, so what's the reaction here? Like what, so, you know, you're not going to be able to sway executives from being profit minded.
Of course not.
That's always going to be a thing. So if you're on a marketing team and this type of idea is pitched and you know that you're not going to be able to kill it, like, okay, we're going to reduce the amount that we put in each package and raise the price. That's the decision we're making. Do with that what you will. Then I think the salve for like saving your brand and making things at least somewhat better for consumers is a point that you made earlier. It's about communication.
Yes.
Right? You need to communicate the reason why you're doing those things. You shouldn't be doing it on the sly. Like,
no.
The article brings up Cadbury cream eggs, and that's a fine example, but they are far, far from the only brand that is doing this type of thing. Take a look in the supermarket. I guarantee just about anything you buy, it's smaller now and costs more.
Yes.
There are market realities, right? Like I get that. I'm not, you know, trying to be like unrealistic here. There are market realities that we're all dealing with, but communicating these things, the reason why the price is going up.
Yeah.
Like I do think that is a like missing piece of this puzzle.
Honestly, I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Brands throw millions of dollars at problems that would have never been problems if their communication was more on point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
legitimately, there are so many journeys and rabbit holes that you can go down to. If you run back the clock long enough, there was an opportunity to be honest and on the level, and that brand decided against that.
Yeah.
And now there are millions of dollars and tons of consequences as a result.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Ritson goes in on how this is going to be the theme of 2026. There's going to be more fury. I love the way that he ends this article. So let me just leave you with this. Something to think about for you, Mike, and also for our listeners as we think about how we're going to succeed this year. Ritson writes, maximiniflation is a coward's approach. It assumes consumers are stupid, inattentive, and passive. In 2026, they are none of these things. They're stressed about money, scrutinizing every purchase, armed with smartphones, and ready to broadcast your deception to millions. And your retail partners are, as ever, ready to take the consumer's side while enjoying the margins at the register from you and your competitor or their conveniently priced private label. Once inside their store, they care not one jot which way the consumer turns. 2026 is not going to be the year consumers pay more and get less. It's the year they punish the companies that tried.
Here.
I mean, that's a mic drop if I've ever heard one.
Absolutely.
What's the written version? Is that a pen drop?
That would be a pen drop. That'd be like a hard save as.
Smash that save button.
Yeah, underscore final, all caps. I mean, I'll just leave you with this. If maximiniflation or enshittification is your brand strategy right now, this is my prediction and my prediction alone. There are companies in the Fortune 100 today that will not exist in 5 years because they took everything, most importantly, the consumer, for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sobering thought, but consumers are onto this stuff. Like, it's time to stop playing games. There needs to be transparency. And like, as Ritson said, like, we act as if consumers are stupid, inattentive, and passive. They're none of these things.
No.
We're all plugged in.
Yep.
We're all talking on social media. The jig is up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else to say. The jig is up.
Yeah. And listen, because we here at On Scope we just can't get down for too long. You know, we're fighters. We get back up. We see a problem. The first thing we think is, how can we solve this? And so for marketers who are because this is all reeks of desperation. If marketers out there are looking for what they can do instead of this race to the bottom, I mean, I feel like there's only one person we can bring in to give a purview of the entire industry as we look ahead to 2026.
Yeah.
Do you have any guesses of who that might be?
I kind of think you're talking about this week's guest, our fearless leader, the one and only Bob Liodice.
Oh my goodness. The CEO of the ANA is back, and we are here to set the agenda and introduce the world to a more courageous, confident marketer of the future. My interview with Bob is up next. Listeners, after a brief hiatus, we are back with more insights, more best practices, and hopefully a few more chuckles. This is On Scope, the marketing podcast. And this is episode 1, season 2. We're already developing annual traditions. And one that we could not miss the opportunity to do would be to set the stage for 2026 with the only person who could help get us there. I am, of course, mentioning Bob Liodice, the CEO of the ANA, is here in ANA Studios. This is On Scope. Get ready, everybody. This is really happening. Bob, thank you so much for coming back. We couldn't have kicked this season out without you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, but you're not excited enough. The enthusiasm is lacking.
You know, I've heard a lot of feedback from season 1, way too muted, getting that NPR vibe. So I am trying to double my coffee intake before every interview. That's the promise I can make to you, Bob.
Let's kick it.
All right. So what we love to do before these conversations is go back to where the entire industry last convened. And of course, I'm talking about the 2025 ANA Masters
Yeah.
of Marketing Conference, because while reviewing the year that was, that's also a great opportunity to look on the horizon and past the horizon. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to kind of dig into a few of the things that you
Let's
mentioned.
do it. Come on, absolutely.
Unpack them for the listeners.
Sure.
So during that keynote at 2025 ANA Masters of Marketing, you noted that our industry is facing an existential moment unlike anything you've ever seen. But there was a part of it that really kind of fascinated the entire OnScope editorial process. Now, with the proliferation of AI, you noted that there is an inherent uncertainty that this technology will lead to creative destruction, disruption, businesses and jobs that we know disappearing off the face of this planet.
Right.
However, you said that in the end, we will be a better industry for it.
Absolutely.
I would love to know, why you feel so positive about where the industry is headed, and what are these signals? What is this? Where is this feeling from? Because I love it. I would just love to know the thinking behind it.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the basics. We've been here before. Not only this industry, but where we are as a country, where we are as a globe. We've been through creative destruction. We've had the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Technological Revolution.
Oh, yeah.
We had in our own industry the advent of digital and social media just essentially replace all legacy analog type media. And we have been better for all of those. So quite frankly, this is that next step in terms of technological revolution that is going to not only change the face of marketing, but change the face of the planet.
Mm.
So it starts with the belief that AI is just not only great technology, but it puts us on a very, very different plane that far exceeds anything that we've ever experienced. This just is not an incremental leap.
Yeah.
This is a generational leap, and it's happened essentially within 3 years. It's changed the face of how we think, how we act, how we operate. Having a team that just came back from CES, they said everything was about robots and AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about that, what are we attempting to do? We're attempting to leverage technology that moves us in a place that is way out of the box, way beyond anything we've ever been able to conceptualize.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because we don't even understand how it operates, but it operates. And it puts us in a place of creativity and thinking and ingenuity and innovation, unlike anything that we've been able to experience. Before, we've had to rely upon human innovation, human creativity. Now we've got technology that can help us to think in a very, very different way, to provide efficiencies, productivity, effectiveness, to provide insights that we've never ever considered before, and to do it in a very seamless Q&A kind of way with a dollop of leap ahead thinking. Now, when you bundle that all together, you come up with a whole series of new ideas and new ways of thinking. Media planning now gets left to the combination of what we may creatively think may be the right thing to do, but happens to be dolloped with a layer of productivity that will essentially make this the most efficient media buy that you've ever had. And if you look at how we operate as an agency, well, agencies were riddled with lots of pedestrian types of blocking and tackling, paper pushing type of people that aren't necessarily needed in this world of AI.
Mm-hmm.
What is absolutely incredible to conceptualize is the trajectory of this growth has been something like we've never seen.
Yeah.
So what we're having trouble doing is adjusting to the speed of that level of change and to try to find that change that will lead for marketers to achieve, to me, the holy grail, a temporary competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Those advantages have been shrinking over the course of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But where marketers can be smart is to be able to provide enough low-cost, almost no-cost technology, apply it to a brand and business system that will in fact be unique and that will be applied so that marketers can gain share of market, can generate incremental revenue through higher volume gains, and obviously greater income. Now, that's the reason why I'm very optimistic. But the offset is that people will get displaced.
Mhm.
Processes will get displaced. Ways of doing business will get displaced. But then again, we've seen how this operates. Look at the retail industry.
Oh,
Look at the
yeah.
record and CD industry.
Yeah.
Revolutionized. But we end up in a better place because when was the last time your family actually traveled to a mall to go buy something? It's been a long time for me. I'll
It's
tell you
been a
that
minute.
much. Everything we buy is online. I'm happier because I don't have to go into stores. I don't have to lug packages, and I get everything delivered to my doorstep. We have to think about this in the same way of transformation, but transformation which isn't necessarily punitive, but transformation in a way which is accretive. Of course, we have to watch out for the scammers, the fraudsters, and whatever. But the solution is actually in the technology.
Yes.
Because once you start applying AI to how do I prevent fraud, how do I prevent criminalization, we can finally get ahead of the criminal element and, in fact, move ahead in a relatively seamless way over time.
That is fantastic. And my goodness, there is so much to unpack there. One of the things that you touched on, which I first kind of conceptualized back when like 4G became
Right.
nationwide,
Right.
is sometimes the technology needs to come along before you can even have the idea.
Sure.
Like before 4G, nobody was going to come up with the idea for Uber because like a system that's going to coordinate all of the cabs in New York City and lead them directly to where you stand. Like you couldn't even have the building blocks of that idea
That's right.
before this technology came and showed you what was kind of possible as a baseline. So I think that it has like not only incrementally increased what's possible, it's opened up brand new spaces in creative minds. And
Right.
that's extraordinarily just exciting and very cool to play around with as a creative myself.
Right.
It's really allowed me to do things I hadn't even considering doing.
There you go.
So super, super cool. I do appreciate the noting the need that that everything is changing so quickly. We need to be very smart about this. And my goodness, at the end of the day, AI is a tool.
Right.
So like, don't sit across the room and be scared of the tool. Perhaps this is something we can actually use with the problems that we are facing today. That is fantastic, fantastic
Well,
stuff.
just take this one step further. One of the key challenges that we've gone through over the past couple of years at the ANA is transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I focus in on transparency is because the digital media supply chain, for example, is so complex. It's very hard for an average marketer to untangle it and really understand how information flows and how decisions are made. Many of them are done for the marketer, leading them to not even understand, for example, how media is placed, how much media is placed, where it is placed. As such, they lose control. But once you start to introduce the element that AI can lead to transparency, the needs of the marketer start to become the most important thing that the digital media supply chain has to essentially promote. So what's going to happen over time, in my opinion, is that the walled gardens, for example, are going to have to become even more transparent. The ad tech community, the DSPs, the SSPs, those that are the publishers, those decisions will have to become obvious to the marketer. Go back to analog days. You used to know where every media dollar was spent and when it was spent and how it was spent. We don't know that today. And as such, we're making decisions on the fly without any understanding as to the outcomes that we generate.
Well said. So I actually have a follow-up of one of the other concerns about AI. Let me connect this back to our time at Masters of Marketing, where in your keynote, you spoke of the power of brand building.
Right.
And that's actually something that came up time and time again on season 1 of On Scope. There's a lot to love about performance marketing, but if you get detached from brand and brand presence and really reinforcing that, you can find yourself lost in the woods. So You echoed these sentiments, like I said, and stating that brand building, I wanted to quote this, is the premier pathway to shareholder growth, which I love. But as we've just kind of been talking about, one of the ways brand marketers are currently leaving money on the table is through weak creative.
Right.
And some of that in some circles has been the perhaps less than thoughtful or less than responsible use of AI. Another thing that we heard a lot last year is that unless you really put the work in, AI is going to lead to a sea of sameness in ad creative. So what advice would you look for marketers who understand, like, you put your head in the ground, you're going to look back up alone when it comes to AI. So what advice would you give to marketers looking to implement AI into their processes while not seeing a drop-off in creative effectiveness? How do we protect the magic bomb?
Oh, my. Marketers have been attempting to crack the code on creativity since the beginning of time. And part of the problem, or most of the problem, is that there's no real formula for producing great creative.
Indeed.
What may be creative to you may not be creative to me. So we have to start with that premise that creativity is a heavy-duty intangible that is done with a sense of intelligence that is unique. And so the way I would approach this, and the way my counsel would be, is that creativity is a process that doesn't rely exclusively on AI or exclusively on humanity, but it is a combination of both. It's the ability to bring humans together with machine and done frequently. So let me bring that one around.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So humans will always be the most imaginative, the most creative, because as natural intelligence starts to grow over time, greater experiences come into play. That naturally leads to growth in human creativity. AI essentially follows in learning what is creative and what is not, and the two have to be blended, because where you bring the two together, you get a wide range of potential outcomes. And then it's up to the human to basically decide, the marketer to decide, which of the ones do they feel would be most impactful to be able to develop their brands. Where technology plays such a critical role is we can test at low cost the various alternatives that the combo of humans with AI can bring to bear. You can then start to ascertain and measure where your most powerful combinations are going to be. When you bring all three together, people, technology, and machines, plus frequent testing, you now build the equation for successful brand growth, which, to your point, is the primary driver for business outcomes, which leads to greater shareholder wealth.
And I'm seeing that was brilliant. And I'm seeing two things pop up. One, I love how you kind of equated the evolution of AI to our personal journey of accumulating these experiences that inform our being, our whole self, and the things that we kind of put out into the world. At the same time, especially if you are working with one AI, at least I've seen on a personal level, that AI gets to know you as well as it's learning the world. And so there is that bit of you, if you're speaking in your voice to your robot, that kind of still remains there, and you can kind of give that a little bit by osmosis. But one thing I have found, and it is that exact AI-human collaboration. AI can give you as many ideas and recommendations for something as you please. And then it is on your taste, your intuition. I forget where this quote came from, but essentially being an artist is primarily about taste. Learning what you love and what excites you and what you can see is brilliant is the best way for your own creativity to get to where it needs to go. So I think that AI, almost as Michelangelo's assistants giving the brush strokes on the Sistine Chapel, but it is all from one source of brilliance that this is coming from. I think that if you play it right and you're thoughtful about it, there is a beautiful friendship for marketers in AI as we go forward.
With one caveat.
Oh, hit me.
Authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
If the final output is not authentic relative to the consumer need, they will get panned.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we've seen that over the Christmas holidays.
Yes,
Of
sir.
inauthentic productions. I'm actually surprised at some of the backlash that's taken place. But that kind of says something about the essential growth of the consumer in what is real and what is machine manufactured, so to speak. And if you're not speaking authentically to the consumer, doesn't matter how much money you put into it, they're going to put a thumbs down to you pretty quickly.
He said it, not me. But you're 1,000% right. You're 1,000% right. That something can be done is just not enough, especially when you're trying to reach the hearts and minds. And yeah, we're going to go on to another subject, but there are some companies where you're like, I know you know better. I've enjoyed you doing better for years and years. But you know what? Maybe that's a conversation for OnScope After Dark.
Okay. Season 3.
There you go. There you go. Always got to leave them wanting more. Speaking of which, listeners, stick around because when we come back, we're going to give some shine to an area that doesn't get nearly enough love. And what I'm talking about is marketing measurement.
Okay.
Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. Ryan,
Yeah, Mike?
I've been thinking, and I just wouldn't feel right kicking off another season of OnScope, the marketing podcast, without saying a quote that I completely do not remember who said it.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah, I guess.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, that's nice. Who said that?
Right? Again, no clue. A wise individual.
Yeah,
Let's
it's,
just say that.
Wise words for sure.
Let's just say that. I bring it up because, you know, partners, especially in this world, we're breaking it down. We're breaking the industry down. This is not an environment that you necessarily want to go alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, partnerships are going to be a huge, huge part of every brand's success. And for the right brands, that partnership might involve the folks here at the A&A. Ryan, what the heck am I talking about?
I think you must be talking about this week's ad read, which is about A&A partnerships and sponsorship opportunities.
Bingo bango.
So, Mike, you know, if your brand wants more than visibility, and what brand doesn't want more than visibility?
Mhm.
Visibility is nice.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so much more out there in the world.
Yes, indeed.
You've got to partner with the A&A. Sponsorship with the A&A means access to the conversation shaping what comes next in marketing. It puts teams in the room with leaders across platforms and brands, from Google and Amazon to Meta and TikTok. Those are some pretty big names right there.
Oh, absolutely.
With real opportunities to connect, contribute, and build relationships that last. Who doesn't want a lasting relationship?
Absolutely.
More than visibility, lasting
Mhm.
relationships. This sounds very, very nice to me.
Absolutely. I mean, unless you're John Cena, you want to be seen. And more importantly, it's where you're seen.
Mhm.
Context is king.
Amen.
And the context of an A&A sponsorship means that you care about making our industry a better place. And that shine feels fine. I'm just telling you.
You want to tell them where to learn more, Mike, or shall I?
Nothing would make me happier in this entire world, Ryan. Learn more about the incredible opportunities of A&A partnerships and sponsorships at ana.net/sponsorship. What's that URL, Ryan?
That was ana.net/sponsorship.
And now, back to our show. Listeners, we are back. This is OnScope, the marketing podcast. I have the one and only Bob Liodice, CEO of the A&A, helping us ring in a new year, a new season. And I'd like to just jump right back into it if you're
Let's
cool
do
with it. All righty. So one of the things, and I alluded to this a little bit before we took a break, one of the things that makes the argument for brand building a little bit difficult for marketers is it's more difficult to measure the results, which sometimes take longer to show up on the bottom line. I mentioned it before. A lot of people are defaulting to performance marketing because at least you spend the money, you get the impressions, it feels like you've got immediate results that you can show around, money well spent. Whereas a brand that has taken the time to become ever-present and ubiquitous, that might not show up on a quarterly earnings call, but my goodness, you do it right, you do it long enough, it is going to give you a massive foundation. So understanding all of that, what can marketing executives and their teams do to convince both stakeholders and shareholders that investments in brand marketing are worth a little patience? My goodness, what a premium patience has in 2026. How can we make the argument that this is one of the spots where it's absolutely worth it?
Yeah. The reality is that most companies, most brands, most C-suites really understand that the pathway is a combination of both brand and performance marketing. So it is well understood. What's not necessarily understood is what's the right allocation. So, I mean, you think about any well-run business. There are investments for the short term and investments for the long term.
Have to hit that balance.
So in marketing, that's critically important because it's so critical in this day and age that one builds a brand in order to provide the long-term framework for how consumers are going to have a love affair with the brand. We have to assume, or at least target, to get to brand love. Without brand love, brands become a commodity. And once you become a commodity, then it becomes a price war. And you can kiss the brand goodbye because their ability to generate incremental volume, incremental revenue, and incremental income is going to disappear with the course of time.
Race to the bottom.
Now, with that being said, we also have to respect the fact that shareholders are looking for a return on their investment. So it's investment in performance marketing. And how that balance comes about sometimes is guided by whether you're a B2C, business to consumer, or you're a B2B, business to business. Once you kind of understand some of those basic facts, then you have to do some testing and to find out what that right allocation is. And when you get that, then essentially you're on automatic pilot for how you do it. It's a focus then on the appropriate brand strategy with the appropriate creativity, with the appropriate touch points, how that's going to take place. All of that is both an art and a science.
Oh, yeah.
So your point earlier about measurement of brands is critically important to understand, A, what that allocation is, B, what that creativity is, and then C, how much to invest to ensure profitable returns. So there are a lot of these balancing acts that, quite frankly, vary from brand to brand, vary inside a particular company across brands.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a level of inherent complexity that CMOs and their teams need to navigate to understand how to kind of move the dials and decide all of those features.
Extraordinarily well said. And I want to add just a couple of thoughts that I had to it. I am the king of remembering quotes and completely forgetting who said them. I'm on my second one this episode. We're going for a three-peat before this is all done. But this is something I absolutely love and I adhere to 100%. Your brand is every touch point you have with a consumer, full stop.
Right.
It's as much the Super Bowl ad you spent $50 million on as it is how long the checkout line is in your retail store.
True.
All brand. Might that not include performance marketing?
Sure.
So I think not only is it a yes and, but I think that there's no reason that all of the considerations of brand marketing shouldn't at least be a filter when you are creating your performance marketing. All of this needs to come from the same source and feel that way inherently.
Right.
And another theme that came up a lot in season one, and you kind of touched on it, is this notion of things that feel responsible but are not actually responsible. You brought up testing a couple of times already, and I'm glad you did. Because I think sometimes if a brand kind of sort of knows that it's kind of working, that kind of 50% of it's working, couldn't tell you which 50%, but 50% of it's working, testing, changing things, maybe in a way that's a little more overdramatic to actually see what the levers are doing, might feel reckless to some. But if you're just going to sit back and watch that 50 become 40, become 30, become 20, I don't see how that's much more responsible, even though in the moment it could be, well, we're standing pat. So I love that you brought up testing. I love that you've brought up coming back to the source and coming back to iterating, because there aren't any finish lines anymore.
No, and I'm so glad you said that, because there are many marketers that manage by gut and instinct rather than facts and data. And decision-making is really what a brand marketer has to improve. Once you can start to zero in on the right balance between the tangible and the intangible, you can make better decisions. And why that decision-making process is so critical is because one of the things we haven't talked about is customer experience. So you can talk about brand marketing, you can talk about performance marketing, but when you think about the various touch points that a consumer may go through in a fully integrated marketing effort, there are lots of different places where the experience will be different. And if you don't necessarily have an understanding as to what those various factors are that can essentially adjust those particular experiences, you're going to probably be flat on your back. And many marketers have learned that tough lesson over the course of time. What's very much happening is that the environment that we live in on marketing is ever changing. So what you did maybe a year ago or half a year ago may be very, very different tomorrow. Again, now influenced by the technology and machine learning.
And really, the more things change, the more those foundations of know your brand, really know your brand. Purpose isn't like isn't your warm and feely TV ad. It's what did this company get built to do? Right. Truly. And if you're not connecting to that and connecting to what that means to the people out there who are your patrons, like all the tech in the world, all the new strategies in the world, it all means nothing. So at least there is a little bit of an anchor as all of this swirls around us to kind of keep our eye on the ball. And that is brand, and that is the customer experience. I'm so glad you brought that
Well,
up.
It becomes even more critical, particularly for, I think, younger consumers today that may not appreciate brands and brand loyalty as much as, we'll call it, their more veteran peers and friends. And so it's critical that brands have to work even harder at the younger consumer segments and customer segments that provide for that kind of romantic relationship with the brands.
Because it's not impossible. The kids go crazy about the right things that speak to them and respect them as consumers, audience members, people. Incredibly well said. So, Bob, I would be derelict in my duty if I didn't bring up the A&A growth agenda, because that is really our rallying cry, our organizing framework, and how we are endeavoring to serve the marketing function every corner that it resides in. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to kind of do a little bit of a lightning round with our 8 growth agenda priorities. And if you could just give me the kind of headline or biggest challenge or what's on your mind, what's on marketing leaders' minds for 2026.
Sure.
That'd be amazing. You ready for a little lightning round?
Let's do it. Let's fly right through it.
Here we go. Let's start off with brand.
Okay. There are lots of places one can go, but you actually identified the one that I think is most important, and that is brand measurement. One of the things that I think is so important for marketers to do is to understand what success looks like. We as marketers, our goal is essentially to build brands. But when you ask that question in the abstract, what does that mean? To some, it's growth in volume and revenue. To others, it means growth in income. To me, it's growth in brand value. And to be able to determine the economic value of a brand, within the construct of a company is critically important. And I think we have to move to more of that measurement approach to understand whether we are achieving brand success or not.
Brilliant. And I will say that we've had great guests come on and talk about brand valuation. And marketers, what you need to bang the drum about is brand is not, it's not logo value.
Right.
It is the institutional knowledge you have. It is the legacy that you have. It is the vibrancy of the team inside. It is the operational efficiencies that your company has developed. All of that makes your brand more and more valuable. So let's get serious about brand measurement in 2026, listeners, shall we?
You said it better than me. That's great.
Impossible. Moving on. Next one is media.
So there are a number of things that are going on. Retail media, the ability and need to create standards that essentially level set how retail media is prosecuted. Programmatic media, and the ability to dive through and understand what media managers need to do in order to effectuate a simplified and productive programmatic media supply chain. We've got a number of things going on in the A&A to help there. Principal media, working with the agencies to truly understand whether you want the agencies to bring together your media investments with others so that there can be more, theoretically, more efficient buys that come by way of the agencies or other multiple sources of buying. So there are a variety of things, and I think the home run for this year is influencer marketing, creator marketing.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much going on there, some subject to some, sometimes misappropriations and fraud and things of that nature, but also recognize that the creator economy is often exploding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And Bob, I'm really glad that you did kind of put a point on this topic in particular, because, and I guess we could say this for the entire marketing industry, but especially in media, it is to every stakeholder's benefit that we create a better media environment for consumers.
Right.
We are all together in that. And much like as marketing had to kind of crawl back from interruptive one-to-many, you're going to do this, marketing as an effective behavior influencer shrank. And we had to fight back and bring the value back in it. I think media is in a very potentially similar situation. So let's all benefit. Win, 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 win. I'm having too much fun today. We're going to go on with technology.
I break it down into two core buckets. One is AI, and I think we have beaten that one.
Yeah, I think we did
pretty heavily. I think the one that doesn't get enough play these days is marketing technology.
Yeah.
Partially because it's very complex. Many marketers don't necessarily understand it. They are only using some of the tools that are provided by Adobe and Salesforce and IBM and others. And we have to be able to wrap our arms around that because there is so much intelligence, you used the term before, that we're leaving on the table. If we can wrap our arms around that, productivity would increase manyfold.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually going to dive into that in mere seconds. But I've heard MarTech kind of cynically dismissed as, well, that's like the plumbing and the wiring. What if I took the plumbing and the wiring out of your house? How much of an enjoyable home experience would you have? So like, really don't discount this. It is a huge amount of the connective tissue that is helping us make those smarter decisions. And what would MarTech be without our next topic? Data.
Data.
Oh, yeah.
Well, data is probably the biggest challenge for marketers, primarily because we don't grow up understanding how to leverage data. And so what we end up doing is taking a slice of a broad, excellent data strategy, turning it into tactics and think that's going to be the holy grail. There are so many complexities to data excellence, and we have to take them one by one and figure out how to integrate them in order to be able to unleash the decision-making capability that can come from the unification of data and measurement. When we learn how to harness that intelligence, powerful decision-making can come about and perhaps can be the greatest influence in effective brand building.
Woo! Well, as we were just touching on it, I like to stop by measurement.
Yeah.
What's the big headlines at 26?
Cross-media measurement.
Mhm.
This is Project Aquila from the ANA.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, your face lit up with that. Project Aquila, for those that don't know, is a project that several organizations have been working on for about 6-7 years. This includes the World Federation of Advertisers. This includes the International Society of British Advertisers in the UK, and ANA, which has essentially sponsored Aquila. So Aquila is a cross-measurement, a media measurement solution that essentially deduplicates reach and frequency so that decision-making about what to buy is enhanced through these tools that effectually improve the quality of marketing mix modeling, which is what many marketers rely upon, but which has essentially become a deadened tool because of the loss of the capability for it to help marketers make those types of decisions. So that integration of the cross-media measurement tool from Aquila, which will be rolling out over time over the course of 2026, combined with those core measurement capabilities, will provide substantial productivity. We're looking at $50 billion of productivity over 3 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and my eyes did light up because I can remember when I heard about this idea for the very first time here at the ANA, and my goodness, what a revolution. I worked in the agency world before this, and attribution was the holy grail for a long time because there's this thing of, this part of what happened. Understanding what happened in the world around it is the answer. Context is everything.
Absolutely.
And I think this is going to get us so much closer there. $50 billion in 3 years, not too shabby of a projection.
No,
there.
well, we'll finally answer John Wanamaker's question about 50% of my advertising is wasted, and now we'll know which one.
Very exciting. History-making stuff here on Scope. It's the only way we do things. You touched on this before, but talent and organization, we cannot forget about the people.
Right. We can't progress without the progression of people. And so what I've always criticized the industry for is we talk a great game on talent development, but we don't necessarily execute that very, very well. And part of the reason is that staffs are overwhelmed. They don't necessarily feel they have enough time and capability to upskill. And if you're not upskilling, you're essentially flatlining. And in this world of growing talent needs, you're going to be going the wrong way fundamentally over the course of time. So CMOs in particular have to make talent upskilling a very, very key priority, especially in, as I mentioned, you've got a media environment which is extraordinarily complex through the digital media supply chain and the programmatic media supply chain. You have the inability for marketers to truly understand how to leverage all of the forms of technology. We talked about MarTech and AI. We have measurement, which is extraordinarily complex, and we talked about cross-media measurement. So all of these areas are not what the subjects we necessarily learned when we were back in college. So we're learning on the fly, and it's important that marketers in particular stay current as they can possibly be, and have to invest their time appropriately to be able to leap ahead in knowledge necessary to make those effective decisions.
You hit on it, is that two things. A, the most generous person on earth is inherently selfish. There needs to be something in it for them.
Sure.
I think a lot of people default to so I need to throw money at them. No, there's a lot of in it for me. There's a lot of ways you can be rewarded. You can be rewarded with learning and expanding your horizons and finding that time for yourself. There's a million different ways to do it.
Well, let's build on that, because one of the observations that we've had over the past couple of years is that the tenure of CMOs is shrinking. If it's Spencer Stewart's measure, it's somewhere like 40 months.
Yeah.
That's a speck in time. You cannot take through all of the complexity that a marketer has to go through that you just wonderfully articulated, and expect a CMO to truly master all of those and deliver the kinds of results necessary. That's the reason why many marketers are correct in their assessment that they are truly understaffed, because in this crazy world and complexity, our ability to harness all of those things for effective decision-making is becoming less and less.
If a CMO is essentially decentivized from putting a 5-year plan together,
Right.
they just won't do it. They might like faint at it, but if they know the reality is that if I don't turn a quarterly around 4 quarters in a row, there's a good chance I'm not here next year.
In the 5th quarter.
Yeah, and the 5th. Yeah. If you could be here next year for the opportunity for quarter 5. But somewhere in the back of your mind, that keeps going further and further away.
Right.
And I don't think any of the C-suite want their chief marketers being like, well, if I'm here in year 3, then we'll put a 3-year plan together. So I love that entire conversation. It's been a delightful surprise of where these combos go, but I loved that one for talent and org. Let's go to inclusive marketing.
Sure. Inclusive marketing is the least understood growth agent, but
Amen.
It is one of, if not the most powerful growth engine. Why is that? Well, inclusive marketing, you can think of inclusive marketing in a number of ways. Some might say it's targeted marketing, because what it does is it emphasizes effective marketing to key segments like African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, those who are less abled, the aged. I mean, there is so much marketing, and there's so many financial resources in those seniors that are over 55, 60, 65. And why is inclusive marketing so powerful? Because it speaks directly to those communities and effectively reaches out and grabs them and touches them in a way that is either culturally relevant, age relevant, or whatever level of relevance where the marketer is talking directly to that individual. It breaks through those barriers and brings that level of familiarity that is very special to you as an individual. Unfortunately, in the past 2 years, inclusive marketing has been blown up. Why? Because so much of it has been linked to DEI. Now, let's talk about this for a second. There's one thing called DEI that focuses on the human element within a company.
Right.
Types of staffing, how many people are this or that or the other thing. That's not what we're talking about. Inclusive marketing is about marketing, and the marketing to achieve growth and marketing directly to those specific segments that are going to build your businesses and build your brand. But when the two get conflated, what you have is a backlash, and you have literally investment come out of inclusive marketing, which essentially unwinds the growth potential of that particular brand. So what we're attempting to do these days is essentially bring back the power of that message to get companies familiar with what is it that we need to do to speak to all of these various segments and what we need to learn in order to produce that relevance.
There is very little in this world more powerful than seeing yourself reflected. And, there's a quote, if you can see it, you can be it.
Yeah.
And if the customers who are in your base, who are patronizing your products and services, never see themselves reflected in your branding and in your creative and in your messaging, don't truly feel like they belong to your community.
Well said.
But on a creative standpoint, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart, the more specific you are in any way when you are being creative, the more specific and drilled in to whatever you're talking about, the more generally appealing it is, because it becomes something that anybody can project themselves onto.
Sure.
Even if it's not a one-to-one superficial match, that idea of a cultural tradition that your family has that's a little bit different from everybody else doesn't necessarily need to be rooted in any one group. That idea that all of our families have something that is sacred and special and singular to themselves is something that can be expressed in inclusive marketing but felt globally. That's just...
I'm going to put you in a marketing textbook for that one. That was good.
That I was actually pretty happy with myself. I try not to. My shoulders sure. I don't like to pat myself on the back too often. Last, but my goodness, not least, B2B.
Yeah, B2B is for many, many years was the poor little redheaded stepchild.
Mm-hmm.
And it was treated with relative indifference because many people didn't really believe in the power of B2B marketing. But you know who some of the biggest B2B marketers are? P&G, Coca-Cola, Unilever.
Yep.
Why is that? Because they have essentially a B2B to C mentality. And if you're going to be an effective B2C, then you need to be an effective B2B. And this is the reason why we have put it as one of the 8 practices, because we have to become far more capable as B2B marketers. And this goes back to a little bit of where you spent a lot of time and attention early on about brand and performance. Brand to demand is the way we like to talk about it generically.
Very much like that.
And I strongly believe that as especially legacy B2B marketers learn that their breadth of tools to be able to leverage their customer base has actually grown exponentially as they widen the lens and they start thinking more like B2C marketers. In fact, there are more B2B marketers than there are B2C marketers. That's where the difference is. And so we like to engineer the thinking that when you start to focus in on brand and demand, you bring that strategic linkage together that allows you as a marketer to weave many different of the tools that we've talked about today, the strategies that we've enunciated, the pathways for business and brand growth that are all part of their sweet spot. And we're seeing some of the most creative brand marketing campaigns come out of the B2B segment.
It is so inspiring to see. And actually that maybe leads me to the last theme that has come up throughout the first season of On Scope, and that is the theme of how important it is for marketers to be confident.
Right.
You know, I think for the longest time, there was that idea of like, well, I'm B2B, so it's like I've got my one sheet, and then you know we've done the positioning work again this year. That was good. But that swagger that Coca-Cola brings, that P&G brings, that Unilever brings. I don't know the history of those companies, but I would assume that they spun up their B2C before they developed their B2B offerings.
Exactly.
And so they entered the space being like, yeah, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. This is how you can actually feel it through our logo. Like, we need that confidence. And ain't it lucky that the ANA happens to have the Confident Marketer report from the B2B team that addresses...
Appreciate it.
I live to serve, Bob. I live to serve. But no, I think that's all so well said. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and toot our horn. There's nobody on the planet who can help B2B marketers get where they need to be more than the ANA. We're covering the gamut. We're kicking butt in every direction. But truly, I think we are in a class of our own when it comes to that. So.
We've got a lot to offer.
Hashtag ANA B2B. Love you, Bill. Bob, very unsurprisingly, this has been an epic conversation. We had a lot of ground to cover, but I think we did a hell of a job. But before I leave you out into this beautiful day to keep shaping the future of marketing for all of us, I'd like for you to participate in a brand new segment for season 2 that we're calling the CTA.
CTA? What's CTA?
It's call to action. Bob Liodice.
Yes.
CEO
Yes.
of the ANA.
Ooh,
You ready?
I'm ready.
What is one thing every marketer should do in 2026?
Act with courage.
Mm.
We've been given great license to experiment, to try, to evolve, to grow. But there are many that are reluctant to do so because they're caught in the day-to-day that they're familiar with, the day-to-day that they're used to, the comfort levels of where they are within their respective organizations. The current evolution of technology has given us license to experiment cost-effectively and to fail. And that is a license that gives us great privilege to understand how to be able to stretch our marketing into areas that we probably haven't gone before and need some leadership to be able to execute in the future. And so it's so important for us to step back and have the courage to try on those things, to be innovative, to be creative in a way that perhaps nobody's really done it just like that before. We spoke at the very beginning about creating temporary competitive advantages. And the only way you're going to do that is to be unique, to be distinctive, to be distinguished. And what we need to do, or at least I think, as part of our brand management strategy, is to pursue all of those things. Not to just be pedestrian, not to be a commodity, but to be a unique brand that will give you the opportunity to secure that temporary competitive advantage and provide the foundation for the long-term growth that is our core responsibility as marketers.
That was legitimately beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Really, truly. Bob, what more can I say? It has been a privilege and a pleasure having you as a guest on Scope.
All right. It's been fun. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Listeners, we find ourselves in a familiar place. Here we are again at the end of another episode of On Scope, the marketing podcast. I love it that we're one episode into season 2 and already we have an annual tradition. Kicking off the season with our CEO Bob Liodice is just a great way to see where the entire industry is looking as we head into this year. I think we're going to be talking about the topics we covered throughout 2026. So thanks, Bob. We always appreciate it. As a reminder, if you have a topic or guest that you'd like to see in a future episode of On Scope, go ahead and shoot us a note. We would love to hear from you. That email, onscope@ana.net. And, as always, here is your moment of marketing meditation. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and consider the following from author Judith Minty. Nothing remains as it was. If you know this, you can begin again with pure joy in the uprooting. Think on that, and we'll see you next week.
This has been a presentation of ANA Studios.